So we have three golfer types. We have an under golfer, which would be a Dustin Johnson. We have a side-on Tiger, and cover would be a Koepka or a Nicklaus or a Patrick Reed type, Bryson. So depending on how your body works based on your arm fold pattern, meaning an under golfer's palm faces the sky when they take their hand back, take their arms back. Side on would be more perpendicular to the ground, and a cover, the hand would be facing down. So
this is episode
20.
20. Man, this is great. Episode 20. All right. So episode 20 of the Golf Performance Podcast, you've got one of your hosts, LeBron Palmer, and we also have
JJ Wood.
And we, I think we just keep upping our level of special guests each time we have a special guest.
Well, I don't know, Taylor Cusack or David Edel. I mean, who are the fans going to like more?
I mean, Taylor Cusack did pull like thousands of listeners in. So, but I have a feeling that with today's special guest, we are going to eclipse that, not only with his background in golf, but also, you know, he's got a good system going on that he was talking about with the putter fitting and the device. We had a little pre-production, which we never do. So I'll let you introduce him before we get started.
Yeah, I mean, David's one of those guys. I tell my students here when I get back, I question everything I ever thought about golf after I talk to him. You know, I'm in there hitting a regular 80-gram shaft and striping it, and I didn't know what I was hitting at first. And, you know, every time I go from a 130 gram to a 120, like my spin rates go out of control, and I don't know. He's like a doctor, you know, for putting and now, you know, irons. So. But yeah, that's David Edel. So that's my introduction.
So Mr. Edel, let's introduce yourself to the Golf Performance Group podcast audience.
Do you guys can you hold a second? They're doing some demolition next door. I think it's going to get ugly here.
Yes, no problem at all. Well, while you're doing that, JJ and I will talk, because I want to talk about that bandana. So is that your face mask that you determined would be the
Yeah, I was at the gas station last week, and on the door it said face mask required, and so the only thing I have is this purple face mask thing. It's kind of embarrassing, and I was wearing a purple shirt, so I don't want to look like I was matching, you know, with a purple face mask. So when I got in the gas station, they had a rack of like every color. And I got every color, so I won't run out.
All right, so you want to redo that intro again, or you want to?
Yeah.
No, all you got to do is edit out the stuff that he and I just talked about. So we're just throwing it to you to introduce yourself now.
Well, hello, I'm David Edel, PGA professional, 25 years, quarter century guy now. Been making golf clubs since 1996. Started out with putters and started developing putters for a group that I was involved with called Henry Griffiths back in the day, which was the father of modern club fitting. I don't know if you all know much about Henry Griffiths, but if you look them up, they were the pioneers of interchangeable shafts and dynamic fitting. Randy and Ross Henry are two of the most brilliant guys I've been around in a long time. And so I got kind of cut my teeth. I lived up and taught golf up in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Was chasing the sun, would go to Argentina and South America and teach down there. And
nice.
My background is with the golfing machine initially with Ben Doyle. He mentored me, and then I've been mentored by Roberto DiVincenzo, who's the winningest golfer of all time, won 231 professional tournaments, 589 times in the top three. So in his career. So yeah, and I've been fortunate through my connections with the golfing machine, and then developing the putter fitting system to hang around some of the brightest minds in the game of golf, and which I take a lot of pride in. So that's kind of where I'm at. I've been thinking out of the box for a long time. As a club manufacturer, one of the difficult things in golf are the things that the industry leaves you because they don't want to do it. Right.
Definitely.
all the large OEMs are chasing the low-hanging fruit because the high-hanging fruit's complicated.
Yeah.
And if you didn't know, people are complicated. Everybody's unique, and you cannot, in my opinion, build a golf equipment that orientates its modality around getting everybody to use the same thing. Because all of our bodies are so different, the way we perceive things, the way we internalize information, our perception systems, our strengths, our limitations, they're all so different. And the golf club has to match that. And the process has to not pigeonhole people into certain areas. It has to be flexible and be user friendly for not only the golf professional but the client themselves or the golfer.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what I've endeavored to do for the last 25 years is take into account the human element and have people learn and figure out the processes, because there was, I started in the basement with this. There was no such thing as putter fitting back in the day.
Yeah.
There was no such thing as, single length fittings or wedge fittings or any of that. So I've been, doing this for so long that I've been doing things that the industry wouldn't do. And then I had to explain it, and I had to work through all the issues and the complications that arise from it. And I've got a pretty good handle on it. So I'm very confident in what we're doing is the best stuff in the golf industry.
David, how long have you been making the single length irons? How long have you had a single length iron? So.
Well, initially I built Bryson when he went to SMU when he was a freshman. Prior to that, his senior year, I made him wedges because he couldn't get wedges light enough, 280 grams. So I want to say that's like 2012. Somewhere in there, 2013, probably 2013. I was making him wedges, and so for me to say I was making single length, I didn't really do that until I want to say, man, I'm running a 2017 is when I came out with our first line 3 years ago of single length irons. I would make stuff for people because the Bryson was doing, playing with them and doing well with it. So I made some stuff prior to from our old cavity back heads that I had. They were bulky enough to where I could get them heavy enough to be able to do the long irons. So yeah, it's single length, came because of Bryson. I was not out there seeking single length.
Now, I listened to, I'm sorry, my bad, JJ, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to ask because, I have the 3 through 7 iron in my bag right now, and people are asking me, or my students this week, or this past week, what are some of the benefits of the single length? I say the setup, it simplifies the setup. You kind of have, not one setup for all the shots because depending on what shot you're hitting, but you don't have to move the ball around as much if you're hitting a 5 iron or a 9 iron. Is that correct? I mean, I'm new to this kind of world, so I'm learning too. But and then the back issue for the short clubs, you don't have to bend over as much. So
right. So the golfer that's generally leaving their posture, which they have to, like a Bubba Watson is a jumper, so his posture's changing because he's using ground force verticals, right? Where a lot of the under golfers, so we have 3 golfer types. We have an under golfer, which would be a Dustin Johnson. We have a side-on Tiger, and cover would be a Koepka or a Nicklaus or Patrick Reed type Bryson. So depending on how your body works based on your arm fold pattern, meaning an under golfer's palm faces the sky when they take their hand back, take their arms back. Side on would be more perpendicular to the ground, and a cover, the hand would be facing down. So this would be, under would be like this, side on would be like that, and cover would be like that. So, so cover golfers and or side ons do quite well with longer golf clubs or longer lower irons because they need their verticals, and a lot of times wedges and stuff force players to stay down. Like you were saying that you have knee issues, you're a big boy, right? I mean,
Yep.
So
knees matter.
You're not going to be hanging down and want to stay down in your posture and rotate. You're going to want to get out of that and get verticals. And so the longer golf clubs in the 8, 9 pitch gaps and allow that player to get their verticals where they're not forced to stay down. And so it can be tremendously good for cover golfers and sight-on golfers. Under golfers can stay in the pocket longer because they're more rotational. Generally speaking, they stay in posture longer, and they don't hit down as much. But yeah, if you really asked anybody and said, "Hey, look, you're going to have to like if you have an iron shot to save your family from being executed, what club would you use?" Most would say, "Give me an 8 iron,
8 iron, 7 iron, yeah.
Give me an 8 or 7, man. I always practice with it." And so that lie angle really and that length really sets up well for most anatomically for people's body types. So being able to maintain a one swing concept is very, it's so simple. Occam's razor is a scientific principle of choose the simplest variation first, right? Don't go the complex. Golf's hard enough as it is, with slope and grass and wind and golf courses changing and grass types and 14 different club. Why would we want to have a golf club in theory that is variant when everything else is so variant?
Now you told an interesting story on your podcast that I didn't know. You mentioned, I think you said Ben Hogan.
No, Bobby Jones.
Bobby Jones won the Grand Slam with single link irons.
I've been to the trophy room at Augusta. I was fortunate. I was invited with Bryson and Mike Shai, and I played with Jimmy Dunn at Augusta. I was a highlight of my life. And in the trophy room, right there on the wall are his irons that are all within a quarter of an inch of each other.
So what do you think changed then? Like, you're talking, almost 100 years, of technology. What do you think changed to make to go from almost a single length to the progressive length of the irons?
Well, it's quite simple. You look at hickory, which a well-made hickory shaft is very, very, very elastic and a very good product. If you've ever played a hickory golf club, you'd say, wow, these things are amazingly good. Bobby had, the best golf shafts in his golf clubs. You were able to shave them down to create different flexes, right? They were all dense. They had different densities. And so he had, I think, 500 shafts to make one of 2 sets of his irons. So wow. He had phenomenal hickory in his golf clubs. Hickory will almost go as far as graphite. Wow. It's used, in the right, mass to shaft flex. So and so what happened is in 1932, I think, is when the steel shaft was legalized. Manufacturing processes back then were really crude, and welding was really not something that we were good at. So they were rolled, welded, and then they put a fake hickory-looking material on there called Prylene that made it look like a hickory shaft. And so they were stiff, they were boardy, they were crap. And so to make a golf club a 3-iron function or a mid-iron in the time, they had to go longer to give it enough elasticity to.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So you look at the irons from that era all the way up through till about the 60s, maybe early 70s, shafts were pretty sucky.
Wow. Okay.
So there was no, and then graphite started showing up in the late 60s. Fiberglass they were trying to do some fiberglass driver shafts back in the 60s too, and it was so inconsistent that it wasn't there yet either. So basically, we just hit a technological wall for a long time in terms of the shaft. So Bobby could make it work with hickory, and then we went to these really bad steel shafts, and single length was no longer a viable option.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. That hearing the history is always an interesting thing because there's legacy behind why you get to certain decisions. Yeah. And then what's crazy is, and we hear this all the time, history repeats itself. Yep. If your hypothesis is correct, which it seems like it is, then we're going to be back to where people will be comfortable because the technology is at a place where single link irons can make sense and maybe not overcomplicate the game for beginners who are entering into a space that's already, like you said, complicated. And JJ, I think I cut you off. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just, it kind of baffles me how you could get the gapping and the distances the same, or as the traditional length irons, when you have shorter shafts in like a 4 and 3 iron. What, do the heads need to be like have more mass on them, or how do you get
Yeah.
the bulk, the distance that you need?
Well, I mean, every iron in like your setup is, I think, 270 grams. So a normal traditional 4 iron is around 243 grams. So you're looking at 27 more grams in your 4 iron
Yeah.
than a
Yeah.
normal 4 iron. So it's a force times mass acceleration scenario. So, your club head speed is not going to incrementally bump up so much versus the amount that the mass that's hitting it on a more perpendicular blow. And on the other hand, that your wedge is going to be, normally a wedge will be 293, 292. Now it's 22 grams lighter. So it has less mass in it. And then you have spin loft, where you're losing a lot of energy because it's not being hit with a perpendicular blow. It's more of an angled blow. So that's where the shafts really matter. Where with Jason Hordesky at Patterson, we were able through his shaft technology to create different. It's an advanced composite, so the shafts are wound with Kevlar and graphite. So they're not flag wrapped. They're wound with a long fiber. So they're all one continuous fiber from one end of the butt to the tip. And so he's able to attenuate the fibers or loosen them in the way the winding pattern happens, so that they're either deadened or they're more elastic. So that was what we did also with to eliminate ballooning and to make them fly lower, was to put create an iron, for lack of a better word, that's deader, so that it allows in the 8-9 pitch gap that we're able to put in a shaft that doesn't want to fly as high and fly as hot. So we can drop the trajectory down without it turning in, because if you just drop the loft down on an 8 iron, now it's a 7 iron, right?
Yeah.
So you're defeating the purpose. You have to take energy out of the golf club and add it. So what we did was we created 3 profiles of shafts that one produces a deadened effect, and the other one on the other end of the spectrum is elastic. So it creates more spin and more energy release. So the technology's there with the phase flex technology, removable weight system, constant balance, constant head shape size, constant MOI. I mean, my iron's the most advanced iron in the industry.
Definitely.
There's no iron that's even close to what I've accomplished with the shafting, the head weight scenario, the bounce, hollow body tech, constant MOI. I mean, it's unconscionable how good that iron is comparative to what's out there. And JJ lamented it by saying,
it feels, we don't know all that other stuff, but we know what it feels like.
We know what it feels like, yeah.
But it's got to be the best iron head feeling. Like I don't know, it feels solid, but like with a little softness, it just feels really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like the look and feel of them. Of course, I've only seen them on the website.
Yeah.
But I would be eager to see them. And JJ, I'll be up your way probably in the next couple of days to see them in person.
Next time he comes up, he's scared he's going to get COVID in here, even though we're still 0%. But he's been wanting to get fit for iron. So, although, what do you do with a guy like him? He's, what are you, 6'5", 6'4"? Like, I was reading like the 37-inch or 37 and a half. I guess you could do, like, Brian, did you get fit for your last set? Were they like?
Yeah, so I got fit for my last set, and I think I was a inch long and maybe a degree upright, I think is what I had the last time. So, but my swing is completely different than. Remember, I was going way over the top, and my path is much better, much more consistent, much more comfortable now. So, yeah, I'm just going to be eager to see what they look like. I mean, and also, we know that Dave, you're known really in the world for putters.
Yeah,
that's kind of where you cut your teeth. And you have a putting system as well that you do a fitting for also, right?
Yes, I have my putter fitting system. My original one had over 1 billion permutations in it. So we've whittled it down to about 100 and something million. But it's a putter fitting process based around 2 perceptions. One, your perception of your visual perceptions, and the other is your feel perceptions, your touch perception. So a putter's two things. It's an alignment system and it's a motion system.
Yeah.
Right? So I've got to align it, and then I've got to move it back and forth, right? So we've created a putter fitting process that's big. We shoot a laser from a puck to a golf ball. We put a mirror on your putter face. Behind the puck is a backdrop. You set up to it with your putter, and you say, okay, I think I'm aiming, and then we show you where you're truly aiming.
Wow.
And the tour average is 8 inches left from 6 feet.
Wow.
I think I was like 15 inches 3 years ago when I first went. It was amazing, but it wasn't as amazing as the grip this week. Every single walks in, I have that BioSwing Dynamics black thing on the ground.
Yeah.
And I make it on it right away. I'm like, I may have been screwing you up for a while now. Let's hear
So the putter fitting process takes into account how a person perceives shape. So a putter is a combination of multiple shapes. You've got hosel offsets, you've got line angles, you've got head shapes, you've got line combinations, you got features on putters that draw your attention forward and back. So we manipulate the head shape, line combinations, hosel offsets to where we figure out through the whole process, because everything's interchangeable, how a person, what attributes of a putter allow them to make the putter look open, closed, or square.
Yeah.
Everybody's always trying to make the putter look square to their mind's eye, but in reality, it may aim left or it aims right. So if someone aims right, the putter looks closed, so they're opening it up too much. If it aims left, and it looks open to them, and then they close it. And so we fix that scenario. Then in the fitting process for speed, we have a unique weighting process of moving weight from the head internally into the counterweight for a person to access their touch patterns to make what they feel to be real and make it real. So
yeah. Brian, I don't know if I told you this because I don't think we were hanging out yet when I got my putter, but it's like going to the eye doctor and you sit there in the chair and they're like doing all the different lenses,
Yeah.
And like all of a sudden you're like, oh, I can see. And that's how it was. I mean,
Nice.
for about 20, 30 minutes, and he's sitting on like a stool thing, and he has his bucket or his tray of heads and shaft.
He said 1 million at one point. So
no, I tell people like hundreds. I don't know what was over there, but then all of a sudden when I got the right one, I was like, I can see it. And it gives you a sense of confidence. It frees you up because I sit over the putt on full swing. I'm really feel and visual, I guess. But putting, maybe because it's been my weakness for a while now, that I'm always adjusting, and I take a long time because I'm trying to get the right alignment, and I never actually figured out with another putter. But when I have his, it's I'm pointing at it, go. It's
and if you remember, that was 3 years ago, and then you came in, you brought in that other putter, and then you aimed it kind of high right, and then you put my putter in play 3 years later, and it was dead perfect.
It was dead perfect.
So the process.
The
process is the person, right? Everybody thinks, it's going to go away because my putting is it's so variable. I don't have good and bad days, and so they don't believe that they're going to aim their putter consistently every time. And people come in all the time and they go, I'm struggling with my putting, and they come in with my putter, and I go, okay, let's see how you aim, and they aim it perfect, and I'm like, well, that's not my problem, right? I mean, your putting is my problem, but the putter's not the problem. It wasn't.
Definitely.
Golf club it's not aiming anymore, right? And we have toe up technology, which we call torque balance. So the face doesn't move due to face rotation rates. So when you put a putter on our finger, the toe points upward instead of being face balanced, but be turned face balanced, which is a joke. That's another topic.
Yes, I'm trying to still understand.
Yeah. Well, look, I know. I appreciate Dave giving us some time. We don't want to take too much of his time today, but I do want to do two quick things before we get out of here.
Yes.
One, we have this steady conversation around how the pandemic is impacting what's happening in the golf industry. Yeah. As a club fitter, club maker, want to get your impressions on, what you think. I mean, we got JJ down there wearing a bandana, so obviously it's impacting us in some way. So want to get your impressions there. And then
Yeah, was there a second part?
Yeah, and then the second one, before we get out of here, just because I'm a gambling person and we're always here, I am going to bet on Bryson after hearing this conversation today for the upcoming event in the Rocket Mortgage. So we'll talk about that, but go ahead into the pandemic real quick before we get out of here.
Yeah, I mean, we're all concerned, obviously. Since I don't sell a retail product, mine are all fitted. Hits us a little bit differently than it may hit some other OEMs because they have distribution networks at clubs, where they sell equipment to either big box retail or online or whatever. Ours has to be fitted. So our fitter core out there, regional fitter core, they've been stifled because they can't get into clubs. So it's hurt us specifically that way. But when we do get in, I'm telling you, people they're spending money on golf clubs. So It's amazing. So we've done, I'll go do an event and I'll sell 9 putters in a day, fit 9 people. And I got people waiting to get fit. So it's been good. We have a new product line out that just was introduced June 1. So the Eas Putter Line. So we were kind of late to getting it out. So the pandemic kind of gave us a yellow flag in racing. So we were able to kind of catch up to the pack. So in that regard, it didn't hurt us. But yeah, for us, it's just these clubs allowing outside people in. A lot of them are, and a lot of them aren't. So, we've struggled a little bit with that, but tremendous enthusiasm out there. I mean, I was in Denver about 10 days ago, and the club that I was at Rolling Hills, they did 307 rounds of golf that day on a Thursday. So they're like, man, we're just blowing everybody I went to in Denver. They were like, it's epic golf. Right. So I think everybody's, remembering what it was like to go play golf, and now I think they're back. I think the bug I think a lot of people got the bug again.
Yeah.
Good for golf.
Go ahead.
And then
you got
on to Bryson. Yeah, I mean the guy's trending. I mean, he's eating 45 pizzas a month, and sitting at 345 on average. It seems like, and it's straight. And
it's crazy.
The one thing I know about Bryson, and I know Bryson very well, is when he's confident, and whenever he's always pushing his boundaries, and when he first got out on tour, he had some initial success, and then he struggled, right? And I don't think he felt confident out there, even though he was confident in his skills. And then he got confident, and then you saw what he did. He won a lot of golf tournaments.
Yeah.
And then he went and worked on some more stuff, right? So he's always working. And I think now he's back to feeling confident again. And I think he's not talking as much about stuff that he's working on and drawing unnecessary attention to himself, which he did a little bit. He's just maturing as a young man, and that'll serve him well. I think as he keeps doing what he's doing. I mean, every time you're in the top 6, right, you're knocking on the door. And,
well, he gives me hope because he's almost my size now. So knowing the fact that I got him by about 20 pounds, but now that I know that someone around my size, before I would look at guys like Brooks, and he's not near my size, but Bryson is closer, so it makes me feel more comfortable to know that I can continue to groove this swing. Otherwise, I was getting guys like Stadler, who was like closer to me, and that's we have a different body type.
Yeah, I'm so that's
all right. But before I go, and Dave, we want to make sure you give everybody your information, where they can find you, all that info. I just want y'all first impressions on my foursome for this upcoming event. I got Norin as my quote unquote D player, although he's not. Norin is my D player. I've got Van Ruin as my C player. Okay. Bryson as my A player, as I mentioned. And then I'm stuck on my B player between Bubba Watson, because he's always played well here, or Ricky Fowler. What are y'all thoughts on that B player? I need some help. Help.
Ricky's been letting you down.
He has, but I
tell him not to, but I don't want to be the guy that, then he wins and you took him off because of me. So
Bubba or Ricky, I need some help. I mean, we've got 2 golf professionals on, and
I'll take Ricky.
Okay.
He's come around someday. I don't know, someday soon.
Yeah, boy, I don't think any of those two are trending very well right now. I'd say Bubba's probably trending better. Um, I like Bryson as your A player, your D player. Some of these young kids are. I mean, the numbers that everybody's throwing up, and I think guys, without the crowds, if you got stuck in a group with Rory, that crowd is killing you.
Agreed. Yeah.
They don't have it, so I think it's going to be a lot easier for some of these kids young guys out there that don't have the experience of dealing with those kind of crowds and that that scrutiny.
Yeah, they're going to be more comfortable. Yeah.
I had been riding Morikawa for every tournament, and he finally missed the cut.
Yeah.
he missed the cut for the first time, so I blame me. Well, again, Dave, we appreciate you taking some time.
I have one question. Question. So putting, was your thing. Now you're getting into irons. Were you like a good putter or a bad putter? Because I got into sports psychology because I was a basket case, and I wanted to learn how not to be a basket case. So what took you to putting? Were you a great putter? You want to share?
No, I was not a good putter, and I think that's what as a golf professional, or what you're always working on your flaws. And so I tried to make a putter for myself, and so I could maybe like something, and then the laser came out back in the early 90s, and I found out I aimed 1.5 feet left, and I said, no wonder why. And I put a PAL 4. So then we started playing around with different head shapes, and I found out that I aimed mallets and curvy shapes better than I did, which my first putter was an 8802. Which I thought I was a pretty good putter back then. And then I was left hand low, my wrist, and I took a lesson from Paul Runyon, who they called him Little Poison because he could make everything. And he gave me his poison, which was the wrong grip for my body type, which we talked about, which was he had my wrist, he folded them, he rolled under, and I'm a cover golfer, and now I put my hands on top, and I'm a good putter because now it matches my fold pattern. So, I went through 20-some years of having the wrong grip, and that's why I'm really, able to share that journey with people in the fitting process is to help their bodies align to the type of putter they have.
I don't know when I got my grip because I was self-taught. I probably had the right – because I was a good putter until I was about 12. From like 9 to 12, I was a good putter. I probably just grabbed it naturally. Then I started learning stuff, and I started getting under probably. And now here I am.
Goes. Yeah. Well, Dave, give people the information where they can find you. We'll have this in the show notes as well. We want to make sure we can – and I need to plan, if y'all are accepting guests, a trip up to Austin so I can get some fitting or work with JJ as well down at Northgate. So where can people find you? Website, Instagram, etc.
Yeah, you can go www or edelgolf.com. And, basically through that you can find all of our stuff. Instagram, Facebook. Got a new website launch. All of our podcasts and stuff will be on the website, so you'll be able to see those.
Highly recommended podcast as well.
Thank you.
You will learn quite a bit. That's why I'm so eager to see these single length irons.
Yeah, if you're
that last episode was great.
Buddy Mike on the podcast a lot on your podcast because I got to find some content.
Yeah, Mike will be one of my next guests. Yeah, and working on getting Rich Beam on and So I'm letting the cat out of the bag. I'm just basically giving my information out because I want to get ahead of what I'm doing, people understanding. It's so complex that I can give out my information. All it does is help.
Yeah, I can't repeat it.
Wow. Make people ask questions and then go look for resources, right?
Well, we appreciate it. That's been episode 20 of the Golf Performance Group podcast, and we're out. Thank you.